Hi, everybody. Before we get to another great interview, the Two Opinionated podcast could really use your help. And it's easy, it's free. IMDb, which is the entertainment database, imdb.com, named us a top 100 podcast. We came in at number 82. That's a big deal because there's 15 million podcasts and growing. So to be named to anybody's top 100 list, pretty big deal for us. And the way you can help is to go to imdb.com, look up the Two Opinionated podcast, and that's it. Just bringing our page up. That traffic really helps us out. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. All we ask is that you subscribe. It's also free, but that really helps us to attract these amazing guests that we keep bringing on the program. And that's it. Two easy ways for you to support us, and we would really appreciate the help. Now let's get to that interview. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Two Opinionated. I'm so excited today. I've got actor Nico Wan with me. So welcome, Nico.
Hello. Thanks for having me. Really happy to be here.
I'm pretty excited to talk with you. You're my second actor from The Recruit. I had Jesse Collin on that plays
Absolutely.
Dodge, and he was terrific. And he had some good things to say about your acting as well. I thought I'd let him know you were coming on. So we'll have to talk about The Recruit, but before we do, let's talk a little bit about your background because I think it's kind of interesting. You had a little bit of a career before acting, so talk a little bit about that. You know, what it was you were doing and how you got into acting.
For sure. I mean, I apologize. This is my first time doing this, so I might be a little nervous. But my story is kind of long-winded.
That makes me feel pretty good that this is your first podcast.
Yes, it is. It is. I'm normally used to being behind a desk and just in an office working all the time. My background, really, as most recent, was a private equity venture capital lawyer. So,
I mean, that seems like a long way from, acting.
Super, very much so. I grew up as the only child and son of Asian immigrants. And so, very much so, my family was, you should be a professional. And I had tried the med school route and I wasn't for me. And I knew I loved business and I loved strategy. I really loved learning, and it kind of all came full circle where they said, well, it's time for you to be a lawyer. So I went and became a lawyer. Was really lucky I went down to the United States to be a lawyer, living in LA, went to USC, and then lived up in Silicon Valley for about 2.5, 3 years. And so was really just doing the grind. When you watch Suits, or soon to be Suits LA, coming out this month, I believe, it is very much my life. My special skill, which is not useful whatsoever, is I can tell font size spacing. So if a signature block is 16 font size spacing and 18 font size spacing, I'm really good at that.
It's like the world's lamest superhero.
Yeah. I haven't put it like that, but thank you. I will take that from you. And so,
see, I can relate to that because my whole life it's not that I have a great memory, but for some reason, I can tell you what people have been in. I've always been able to say, oh, I saw that actor in this or whatever, and I'm like, what am I going to use this knowledge for? And then I ran into podcasting.
Well, it's actually really beneficial. You're like a full IMDb Pro situation going on, right? Like, you're just rattling it out. I wish I had that.
Well, yeah, it always served me well, but most people will be like, so maybe we'll find your place for that.
I really hope that there's one day I get to play a role or I get to use that kind of same analysis, being like, the font is 2 sizes too big. You gotta put double this. I sometimes, now that I've transitioned into entertainment, I'll occasionally look at contracts and documents for people, and I will see something like, this is spelled wrong. There's a period wrong here. There's a double space on this. This is 1 size over. And like, you're crazy. And I say, I know.
I know. And I have family members that that are kind of like that. They have those kind of those quirks or whatever, and it's not like you can turn it off.
No, I actually now have forcibly like made myself just like not like it's like you feel the feeling, you don't process that feeling the same way anymore.
Right.
Um, it's gross. That like butterfly meme, that's like me, right?
Yeah.
But essentially for me, I've been super lucky with this like jump. The way I grew up in the legal field, it was, go to a decent law school, see if you can get into a suit style law firm, right? And there you're typically start as a first year associate where you learn about the spacing and all this. And
Right.
um, unless you want to become partner, the goal is kind of to move in-house to a company because instead of working 16 hours a day, you can work like 8 or 9 hours a day and you get paid a little less and you can have a life. And that typically happens within 3 to 5 years of
Right.
being at a large law firm. And then, but for me, I somehow really lucked out and I was able to kind of make that transition to a company in about like 2.5 years, purely by luck. And I kind of did this like recollection, like a review of my life. And I was
Yeah.
saying, is this it? Shouldn't I be happy now? Like I've achieved what was on paper, right? And is what I should have had. And I definitely took my liberties to go have some fun and enjoy life more. But I at one point felt this sense of emptiness beyond
Yeah.
just the work that I was doing, and I took it really seriously. I would say I had always been somewhat creative. I used to be a professional ballroom dancer when I was younger,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. I saw that. I was going to ask you about that because that's kind of impressive.
thank you, thank you. My mother made me, also something that my parents asked me to do. I'm very grateful that I did it.
Well, I was going to
But
say that one I'll give to your parents. That's a pretty good. That's
super.
a good skill to have.
It's fun to be able to bust a move. I won't lie, and
Dude,
I
that's
remember.
coming from somebody that cannot dance. I'm very jealous
I don't believe
of
that.
dancers.
We'll have to see that in person, and then
Okay.
I'll teach a couple steps. Okay.
All right. All right. That could be a pretty good YouTube channel because it'd be hilarious. You trying to teach me.
No, I think I have taught everyone. I'm sure you're great. I started with two left feet. Um, they they have.
If I have two left feet, that might be an improvement.
Well, we'll see in person. We'll see in person. But because of the kind of aspect of creating choreography and being creative in that aspect
Yeah.
of things, I just kind of took some time to review my life and
Yeah.
I tried different creative avenues from singing again, dancing, but pottery and acting was what really stuck. And I
Yeah.
really enjoyed the storytelling process. And these were acting classes that I did over Zoom. So it was nothing very ever serious. I would just be like, oh, this scene is fun. I'm going to go in and like do
I mean, that's
things.
impressive to kind of teach yourself acting by Zoom.
I mean, I had a really good, everyone I met in the industry so far in the beginning too, until now has been truly just like a guiding light for me.
Yeah.
And through this like extensive reflection process, my process, I guess, is very much academic in the way where I'll like find something that's really interesting and I'll like deep dive into it. So when I was researching like how I felt personally, I did lots and lots of writing and how each creative outlet kind of made me feel and why it made me feel that way. And
Yeah.
through acting, I really recognized that yes, it was really fun, but I was really interested in creating stories for people. And like I really love that human connection of like why are you the way you are and what is the drama that's happening in your life? And I reflected that back upon also being a lawyer. My favorite part about being a lawyer wasn't necessarily the contracts, to be very frank, but it was really talking to my clients, especially in the startup
Yeah.
industry, and seeing, hey, like you're really fighting for what you love and you're gung ho on it. How did you come up with this idea? And frankly, also the drama between founders is fascinating. Um, and so it kind of all was a perfect circle. I was really lucky again, conveniently during that time when I started, and I'm very, very new to the industry. I had a change in management at the company I was going through,
Yeah.
and it just really changed the culture of the company I was in. And it coincided simultaneously with me kind of making the decision to say, hey, I think I actually want to pursue this industry um, seriously now,
Right.
right? Storyteller. And I had, frankly, just been super lucky. I um, got a chance to book a commercial right off the bat, and then I got represented really quickly, and I left my job in December of 2023. I really started to make that decision of acting in August 2023 to be like, this is now something, I'll take an in-person acting class, and left my job in December 2023, and then took a vacation, came back and booked the show in January. And so
It doesn't usually work that way.
I recognize that now. And I still kind of pinch myself. I remember very much so being like, "Hey, do you want to do this? Make a decision to do this." And then once I did, it seemed like it was fate, or like something opened right in the right space where it just all came all at once. And I still come from a very, I would say, naive perspective about the industry and how
Yeah.
things happen, just because I've only been here for such like a small amount of time. And I remember that I had booked the show, my team was really happy, I was really happy, and a week later I was on set with Noah and Teo, like on a rooftop, and I was just being like, I don't, hi, right, like, nice to meet you. And so yeah, I think it has been so fortuitous, but that decision to be creative really was a long process initially for thought. And
Yeah.
then
Well, that's a big
obviously,
decision.
yeah, I would say, yeah, I would say that it wasn't like a quick, simple kind of choice.
Yeah. I had something similar around that same time. I retired from my day job and leaned into this podcast, and I haven't missed it, not even
Right?
1 minute. It's been the best thing, and it sounds like you ran into something similar when you switched to acting. It's like you found your thing.
Uh, yeah, I mean, it kind of, I mean, again, like, thank you for sharing that. I feel like, you know, doing podcasting for you and like being in this space where you're doing what you like your heart flutters a little bit. And any
It really does. It really. I mean, I look
right?
forward to coming to my studio. The studio's only 5 minutes from the house, but
It's
I'm going to
nice.
work.
Yeah. And that's the way it should be. I really felt like I talked to some of my friends about this, and you know, I think, and you can relate to this too, when you're having a career and this sense of stability, it's kind of this comfort level that you are so ingrained and habitually taught by society and even the people around you to kind of stay in. And it being able to question that is so beautiful, and then following where that flutter is even more beautiful. And obviously there's like the luxury of luck, and things have to balance in terms of finances and things, but like I think that for me, and I'm really curious actually about what made you kind of just be like, I'm doing it, because for me, I said that i I think I really love this, and if I don't do this now, I would very much regret this when I am like in like 5 years from now or 10 years from now. So I'm gonna just take a bet on myself and follow where what makes me happy.
Well, and what's the downside? If you want to try it and it goes horribly wrong, I mean, the worst thing that's going to happen is that you have to go back out into the workplace. But at least you've got experience and stuff, so you could probably find something.
I mean, I can tell you about spacing. There's a job for that somewhere. I'll be a copywriter or some sort of sense. But exactly. Um,
That's kind of how I looked at it. I was the podcast was doing great. I didn't really need to work other than for the security of it.
yes,
And I was just like, it's silly. It's not what I want to be doing. This is what
right,
I love doing. So I
right.
just leaned into it, and I figured worst thing happens, I got to go get me a job. But
Yeah,
I've had a career, so I'm pretty confident I can land a job at some point. But I don't want to do that. So,
yes,
kind of motivates you to push a little bit on what you're really wanting to do. And now if everything went horrible and it just crashed and burned at this point, I wouldn't feel as bad because I feel like I gave it everything I could. If it doesn't take off, and of course it's doing great, but if it didn't, then I'll be like, okay, I tried. That'd be all right.
Exactly the same mentality. And I think that, obviously I've been very fortunate to have the modicum of progression that I have had
Yeah.
so far, but it is something that I'm like, yeah, I think that it was really right timing, right belief, and doing this, and it makes you happy every day, even in the stressful moments. I'm sure, in your new era of life, as it is mine, there are moments that are not as fun and a little bit more anxiety inducing, and
Right.
I would rather have the anxiety of being here right now. This anxiety is so much better than the anxiety I had at an office, reviewing a document at 11 p.m.
Right.
Right? With like, I loved my coworkers, but sometimes things are intense, and I remember I have a lot of war stories of doing deals, and I was like, I don't want to do this. Like, this is not making me a better, happier person.
Well, and that should
And
be the main motivator, I think.
yeah,
And I think that's part of the reason, especially here in the States, we're getting a lot of pushback from our younger generations because they don't want to just work at a crap job making a little bit of money. That's not good enough. If they're going to make no money, they might as well be doing what they want and be happy. And it's hard to argue with that.
I I 100% see that. I mean, I think it's really interesting. I look back on my life when I was a first year associate at a law firm. I was, I used to live in Silicon Valley in Mountain View area, and Mountain View's really, it's a beautiful place, but it's not what I was used to. I grew up in Vancouver, and I was lucky enough to live in Los Angeles and some other metropolitan cities. So things closed at 9 p.m. I had no friends. I was back home at my apartment, and we were trying to close this deal, and I think I was working until 2:30 in the morning, and I hadn't eaten, and I took a nap for about an hour, went to go to the restroom, and was frantically checking my emails as I was going to the restroom, being like, what am I doing with my life right now? And I'm so grateful for everything that has happened so far. So yes.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you're here. I've been watching the new season that came out in the last week. Oh,
Thank you very much.
It's great, and you're terrific in it.
Thank you very much.
I'm loving it. But let's talk a little bit about The Recruit.
Please.
For those that aren't watching it, it's here in the States. It's on Netflix,
Yes.
and they should be watching it. Season 2
They
just
should be
came
watching
out.
it.
It's incredible. But tell us a little bit. What's the show about? What's your role in it?
Yeah, absolutely. So the show is actually about a lawyer who is Noah. Noah Centineo plays a lawyer who joins the CIA and gets roped into this like international espionage kind of story. And this year, the story takes him to South Korea, Seoul specifically, where he ends up kind of working with Teo Yoo, who is an agent for the Korean National Intelligence Service, and a lot of these kind of, how do you describe this in a more beautiful way? It's a lot of kind of, again, espionage, grit, and kind of scheming that goes on between, different agencies and how things work, and the character dynamics kind of put Owen in a really difficult, mind-bending, action-packed space. My role in this is I serve as a gangster informant for Teo's character Tang Yun, and I deliver some really important information about someone who he loves, and I kind of play both sides, both from being like a positive person who's doing his job as an informant, and someone who is kind of double backing and on the other side, and I get myself into a lot of trouble.
Oh, you would imagine that you would.
Yes. That high risk stakes. Like my character, his name is Jimin. He's a gangster in Korea, and I think that the character was really lovely, super fun to play, very different from who I was. But again, yes, Jimin himself should reconsider his choices occasionally.
That's right. All right, is there a chance that
Yes.
that we get to see you after this season, or is that is this it?
I don't believe so. You'll have to definitely tune in to see it. But Timin definitely gets himself into a very precocious situation,
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
get to see the brilliant like and scary acting of Teo, who kind of really is the my point man on the show. And him and I get into a couple both verbal and physical tussles, and
Oh, that's
sometimes
pretty
we
good. Did you have to do fight training for it?
I didn't really per se, but I had to do my own stunts. There's a part we obviously had a great stunt team, but I like did part of the stunts with it.
Yeah.
And there's a part where it was my first day on set actually, and I had to flip backwards on something, and I didn't know how to do it, and I was trained to do it, and that was really cool to be able to just kind of do a backward somersault. Again, I'm used to being on a computer, and like the extent of my physical
Well, I mean,
exercise.
but you're a dancer. That helps a little.
Yeah, I mean, I was 15 when I was a dancer, so I'm
All right, fair, fair.
I'm a little bit not as flexible as I used to be. But our stunt team, our team generally both in North America and Korea were absolutely amazing. I can go on for hours talking about like how warm I felt through the whole process, especially being super new, but specifically for the stunts that I was doing or the
Did
stunt that
it
I was
help? Like once you did the stunt and kind of figured it out, did that help you to settle in and be a little more comfortable on set?
Super. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it did after a couple times. Again, it was very much of an imposter syndrome situation for
Yeah,
me because I had been with. I'm walking onto this set where you have such amazing actors and such a great team of producers and
it
cast
is
and
a good
crew.
team.
It was amazing, and I don't think that I could have possibly asked, couldn't even have dreamed for a better first experience as my first gig, right? Um, and again, you hear stories about how productions can be made and how this industry can be very difficult, and there's a lot of personalities left, right, and center. But there wasn't a single person that I didn't feel like I couldn't get coffee with and didn't want me to succeed.
That's
Um,
terrific.
I had personal calls from our producers and production assistants, and I specifically remember actually the first day I was on set, I was working with Teo and Noah, and Teo and I had a scene together where the director was like, "Oh, we're just gonna do a three-step on this." Like, just he hit some terminology term, and I was nervous. I was like, "I have no idea what you're saying. I'm so sorry." And everyone was like, "No, no, no. This is what it is," and was just there was no ego involved,
See, that's
and
really nice because it's not always like that. I've talked to people that they might have been like, "Who? Get this guy out of here. Give me somebody that knows what they're doing."
right. And I was able to learn so fast from it. And so I guess like with your question on the stunts, to circle back to that, is that yeah, I think once I did it a couple times, I definitely felt better. And I think that I inevitably, or as we all do individually, put the most pressure on ourselves.
That's right.
Um, but I felt like uh, it was a balance. I did feel like I was much more part of the team when I was able to get it, like after the second or third time I did it. But I think that the team itself was the people themselves were the ones that really made me feel like I
Yeah.
belonged there, right? Um, and that was for our North American team, and even for our team in South Korea, they were so gracious and so kind, and I I can't. I get a little emotional about it, but I can't think of better people to have worked with, and I'm like so grateful that I got to be a part of their story and we got to work together, and they were explaining things to me even from hair and makeup and why we're doing certain things, and it was great in the way that after that when I got to Korea and I got to we shot in North America and Canada first, and then we
Yeah.
went to Korea. Like by the time I got to Korea, I felt like I was a like part of the team already, and people that I didn't even get a chance to work with that we shared the same hotel room with. No, hotel with. Sorry,
Yeah.
hotel room, hotel with. To be very
Well,
clear,
it's on a
sorry.
budget. We
Yeah,
gotta double up.
yeah. We were all in a text group chain, and they invited me to hang out with them, and we still talk afterwards. And so
I
it was
love
very
that.
much of a family environment. So I think that I would have substantially felt more of an imposter syndrome and substantially less confident in my own abilities to, do justice to not only Jimin the character, but like the recruit and everyone on the show that was working there had it not been for everyone being so positive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly am like so grateful. I
Yeah,
actually
that's
saw.
true. I mean, what if you went in and it was just a complete disaster and everybody was terrible? It's your first real experience. Does that motivate you, or does that make you think, well, maybe I'll go back and go back to the corporate world?
Well, I won't lie. I think that through the process of, going from corporate America to kind of moving into the entertainment space, I've definitely become a lot more emotional and realized how much more emotional I can be, right? Or how sensitive I am to
I mean, that's a
just
that's a good as an actor. That's a good place to be, I would think.
super, super. And I like remember going through that, being like, I know that I have to change this aspect of me because
Yeah.
um, I'm learning and I'm growing and I'm changing. But because of that, I think that, to your point, if I went to my first production and it was horrible and everyone was mean to me, I probably would have been like, oh no, I'm just gonna go back and be a lawyer. I'll work
Right.
16-hour days. It's totally fine, right? Um, but yeah, no, I think I've heard stories from my friends having been on sets before where things aren't as warm, things
Right.
aren't, there is more tension and people aren't willing to help each other much. And I was worried about that going in
Mhm.
to, you know, going on the show that, had a great first season, and also going in and working with, the number one and number two on the call sheet on the first day, right? And,
No
I had
pressure.
no pressure. And, I had heard stories. Again, this is all stories that I've just casually heard, being like, oh, you don't talk to them, they talk to you. Like, you be quiet and sit in the corner, right? Like, these are
Right.
things that, like, my friends, like the few people that I knew in the industry, would like say that this is the thing that happens. So I remember just kind of just being very polite and sitting there, and Noah was so warm and so kind, and Teo was so generous with his time and was so just like personable to speak to, that I felt weird at first, being like, I would catch myself thinking, am I okay with continuing this conversation? Like,
Am
am
I
I allowed
allowed
to
to speak?
talk? Right. Because and then it goes back to kind of sometimes in the corporate world, where my first year of being an associate, you're air, you don't exist, you are
Right.
just there, you don't speak, you don't get spoken to, you don't have ideas, you're just there. And so I thought that I was going to go into that mode, so when they were talking to me, I was just being, you're so nice and you actually want to get to know me and you're wondering how I am. Okay, well, all right, sure, yes, okay. And so truly everyone was great. So yeah.
I love that. Yeah, that's terrific. How did it go with the family once you made that decision to be an actor?
Oh,
Because they were pretty set on you being a lawyer.
well, that's a really great question. I think that my family doesn't really understand the entertainment industry,
Yeah.
and obviously coming from a background in Asia, the Asian entertainment industry is different from the North American entertainment
Sure.
industry, and I think that they weren't particularly happy with it. I won't lie. I won't sugarcoat it. 'Cause they
Well,
only
parents,
understood.
they want to make sure you're okay, that you can
Super,
support
super,
yourself.
super.
Yeah.
They're much better with it now, especially now that it's come out, and they're like, "Oh, my son's on the show. Like, that's
Yeah.
kind of fun."
Are they
But
watching?
they watched it. They watched it.
Okay,
I was
good.
nervous for them watching it. I love my family. They obviously still just want the very best for
That's right.
me. We always butt heads, and it's like different generations of understanding and our
Yeah.
communications. But I do think that the solace that they have is that, just like you said, worst comes to worst, my son will just go and be a lawyer and he'll be fine,
That's right.
right? Like, and and they've said this to me too, where I'm like, I'll take it. Like, that's great. That's all I can ask for. Um,
I
so
mean,
yeah,
is the dream to at some point, get a role as a lawyer on a show or a movie,
oh my
or
gosh,
is
that
it
would be
to?
so fun.
I mean, because that would
Um,
be, yeah, that would be pretty cool.
I feel like I sometimes see these lore shows like Suits LA or anything that's filmed with venture capitalists in Silicon Valley. And I'm like, would I be acting? Because I know these, I like know
Yeah.
exactly how the story is, and it would be so fun to play this aspect of myself that once existed. I
Yeah.
was a corporate attorney, but and I think that a lot of uh, you know, films and TV shows about lawyers tend to be more on the litigation end of things.
Right.
And so as a corporate attorney, I do deals like on the phone, right? I don't really go to court, but I like have friends that do it. I was trained for it. Um, I would be like, oh, it's so fun if I get to like go and be an
Well, I
attorney.
was going to say it'd be kind of cool to go to court then
It
if you don't
would,
really
it
get to do
would.
that.
I used to get, I remember actually I'm not a huge I'm not a huge confrontation person. And so I picked corporate because I love the business and strategy, but also because I just didn't want to wear a suit and go to court and I felt really intimidated. And I used to do a pro bono housing court
Yeah.
uh, in California. And so I would go represent people that like were being evicted from their homes and didn't have a place to
Right.
live. And I remember going my first time and I did not know how to call the judge properly. I was like, "Hello, sir, Your Honor." And then, and at this point, I was a second year associate, so I should have this like sorted. And it was just a funny experience. Like, oh, I now know I would do this great on like a show, right? But at that moment in time, I remember this reinforced how much I didn't want to do litigation work. We did win. That was the most important thing. I won, but still, uh, it's different from the path I pursued, and
If we
yeah.
could find you a role where
Mhm.
you're like a lawyer during the day and at night your secret passion is ballroom dancing.
Hey, someone call me up. I'm ready to do it. The note would be like, is he acting or is he just living? Right? It's
Yeah.
so natural for him to do that. Um, and these things actually don't leave you, I find, because quite often I still do some kind of consulting-ish work for some of my old like startup clients when they'll
Yeah.
ask me to like raise funds and stuff. And I'll like switch back right into a lawyer's voice right away. And I've had friends who were actor friends who've known me only as Nico the actor
Yeah.
that would be like, your voice just changed dramatically. Like, what is going on? Right? I didn't know like you spoke like that, right? And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot, right? But I would love that. That would be so fun. Um,
I think it'll happen at some point. I mean, it makes
I'm
sense.
sure
Why
it will.
wouldn't you cast somebody that already knows all the lingo?
Oh my God, please tell everyone this.
I'm
I
gonna make some
would
calls.
love that. Please make some calls on behalf of me. I promise you I'll do a good job and I will read the law as is, right?
You probably even let them know if they could be using a better font.
I feel like I would be too scared to, but I would notice it perhaps maybe. But I think that'll be a really
Do
it'll be
you
such
have a favorite font?
okay, so yeah, yes, actually, but it's purpose driven. Yeah. So on a general basis, I'm a Times New Roman dude.
Yeah.
I just like it because it's classic on contracts that I'm used to. But my background is in financing, so effectively, so I do a lot. I used to do a lot of PowerPoint pitch deck
Yeah.
presentations to get investors to get money for people. And my advice that I tell everyone is, at least in the realm that I worked at, it's not the prettiest font. Helvetica is what you want to use
Really?
because it's easy to see.
Oh well,
And
yeah,
so,
that's important.
and so, like, quite often we meet a lot of founders that, they have a beautiful story and they have beautifully designed pitches, but I'm taking so long to read every slide that I can't make a decision already. And if I was a junior associate, that would be totally fine because that's my job to go through it. But
Right.
for like larger investors, if you can't get their attention to flip to the next page within, I don't know, like 20 seconds, they're just not going to read it. So I always say, hey, Helvetica is not the prettiest. It's not design friendly, but if you put it on there and you put it in big text, I'll read it and I won't be angry at it. So those are my two.
That's
Aesthetically, I
pretty good
mentioned.
to know. That's a good
Yeah,
PowerPoint tip.
yeah. Very great PowerPoint thing. I tell all of my friends who are raising funds or people who are pitching, being like, it's not the best, but promise me that the point of the whole pitch is for them to read it, right?
Yeah.
Like, they'll read it. Helvetica's not going to make anyone angry. So
I like
yeah.
that. Yeah, I like that a lot.
No one's really asked me that question before. I did not expect to talk about a response, and I love that. I had like a whole like backstory moment. If you heard me pause, me like, oh man, everyone's gonna hear me nerd out really quickly, being like, this guy's so strange. He has particular font types for particular reasons.
Well, that's why I asked, because I'm like, I'm gonna
No, I
find some
appreciate
stuff
that.
out here.
Yeah, if you have any other questions on Raw Podcast, I'm always happy to chat about it. I have done more PowerPoint presentations than I could possibly remember.
Well, being honest, I could, I spent 30 years running call centers. That's what I
Oh wow.
did, and so I've done my share of PowerPoints. But normally, if I want a good PowerPoint, I take it to my wife, and she does her magic on it. So just being honest, I can do them, but she does
Yeah.
them better. And there's a difference in a good PowerPoint, an
Right.
okay one, and like a really good PowerPoint. It just the ability to get people to actually look through it each slide, that's not
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah, it's a lot of like, it's funny because I talked to some people earlier, just to your point, where it's like, it's just a PowerPoint presentation. I just need to get the information on the page. But I kind of look at it kind of in a way of when people look at acting initially, where it's like,
Yeah,
hey, these are just lines on a page, just say them and just be emotive. And then you dive deeper, like what makes a really good scene, what makes a really good character, what are the
yeah,
character's motivations. There's so much more embedded that's layered, in this industry for reading just a scene as much as it is of just presenting the flow of a presentation.
yeah. That totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. And speaking of passion projects,
Yes.
you've got a little project that you're working on.
Yes.
Let's talk about
So
that for a minute.
thank you very much for bringing that up. So I have a project that I wrote last summer for fun. It was truly as a way for me to learn more about the industry because I thought that, hey, character development is really important, understanding
Yeah,
story is really important. How do I kind of translate these contract skills for writing clauses to perhaps building out a story?
yeah.
And so I wanted to do something that was funny. My project really is about two best friends, right? And they're both named Lee. One is speaks Mandarin more, and his name is spelled Li, and then another one speaks Cantonese more, and his name is spelled Lee. So the
Oh,
name
I
is
love that. I assumed that it was just one name, but it's actually
no,
two
no,
different
it's
people.
yes. It's two best friends, and essentially what we talk about, it's a chaotic comedy. I would say very similar as a modernized version of Harold and Kumar, right?
Oh,
They kind
yeah,
of yes, and we really question on its surface, what would you do for your best friend in the entire world? Like,
yeah.
what would you sacrifice? And for us, as a man, would you give up your balls for your best friend? Right? And we actually very much answer that question. It was this conversation I had with a friend before, and I was saying, what is the most
These are the
expensive?
deep questions that we've all been wondering about.
But I do think at the end of the day, obviously it's a comedy, so you're not gonna it's not bloody and gory
Right.
whatsoever. But let me be very, very clear. But really, it's like, what is the true testament of friendship? As a
Yeah.
man myself, like, would I lose my balls for my best friend in the world? How about one ball? And we answer that in a really fun, kind of chaotic way. And so
Boy,
the
I'll tell you
project,
what, if you did that, anytime that from that point on, you'd win every argument. Your friend be arguing with you, and you'd be like, "Well, I kind of sacrificed." And he'd be like, "All right, you win."
right? Exactly. You're always going to have the upper hand, right? And I think that, in friendships, there's always a winner at one point in time for different things. And so I will say, I gave up the ball for you. You now got to buy me coffee. You don't be
That's
mean to
right.
me. I've had a tough day. So
How many coffees is an equivalent amount?
you know, should we look at what the surgery price costs,
That's right.
perhaps, right? Sans insurance. Um, but yeah, no, it was a really fun
Is it
project.
a short or is it?
It's a feature film. My
Oh,
apologies. I should
nice.
have jumped into this. Yeah, I it was a feature. I kind of just wrote it all in the first draft within, like 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks.
That's fast.
Again, I think I don't have. I've recently taught that I'm not chill. I'm easygoing, but I'm not chill. And
Well, that
I
serves you well, though.
super that lawyer mentality of like working 16 hours a day, just
Yeah.
kind of went
Knock it out.
through. And I was just gonna shelve it because I just thought it was funny. It was for me, and I had a couple of friends in the industry, and one of them was a producer as well. And she said, "Hey, like you should just for yourself get a table read for this to see how it goes." And we did a table read, and we had some more friends attend, and everyone got really excited about the project. And I had gotten so much positive feedback from it that now we're
I bet that table read was a scream.
it was fun. I won't
Yeah.
lie. It was I had a lot of fun. A lot of people were like, "This is really great," and obviously I'm biased because I wrote it, right? But at this moment in time, we're just running through another draft. We got our first 200K in financing for
Yeah,
it.
that's all. That's a big deal right there. It's not that's
Yeah.
like everybody thinks the writing is the hard part or the filming's the hard part. It's
Oh
the
yeah.
money. That's the hard part.
Super, super, super. So we're really excited about it. Again, I'm a first time. I never thought I would be a filmmaker. I
Yeah,
just really want to see this project come to light because I really think it's a super funny story, and we tackle kind of an immigration issue in a different way, in a more comedic way, where our main character, he is on a visa that's working that a visa living in America, and he's grown up here his entire life. And this has happened to so many of my friends where even though they grew up in South Korea or Singapore, they went to high school here, their parents worked here, and somehow they got left off the filing list to get their green card, and
yeah.
inevitably they join a company where their boss knows this and has taken advantage of them. And if they don't do what the boss says, whether it's a simple errand or any job that they want, they lose their visa and they go back home.
That's
And
terrible.
and and yeah, and I think that like it's an interesting thing where a lot of my friends have been personally affected by stuff like this,
Yeah.
and so it's just an interesting way to be able to tackle or just talk about
Well,
certain
yeah,
things
you're
that
bringing up some deeper subjects, but you're doing it with humor.
yeah, and I think that that was a lovely way of kind of paying homage to my friends as well.
I
But
like
yeah, it's
that.
super exciting. We're
Are you
looking
are
at
you are you planning to do like the festival circuit?
yeah, so I think that's the ideal plan. I'm really lucky that I have a couple friends that are producers and have done some work on stuff before that are advising me.
Yeah, of
Obviously, with the fires that just happened in Los Angeles, we've put a pause on everything, rightfully so.
course.
Um,
Yeah,
and I think now, uh, as we kind of in Los Angeles move, forward with that in the best way we can, these kind of discussions. I've actually just gotten a couple emails kind of asking me, be like, "What is the status? Can we meet?" And I'm really excited about the project, and I hope that it'll just kind of gain more traction and people when it comes out. Uh, just like have a good laugh with it,
well,
right?
it sounds funny.
Yeah, I mean, I hope I think it sounds funny. Obviously, my friends do, but ideally, yeah, I think we're looking most likely for a festival circuit kind of situation that will go with it. But everything's up in the air right now.
Yeah,
I'm again very new, so if you have mentors and people that want to give me advice, I will always take it. I
oh, that's
don't know what
smart.
I don't
That's
know.
that's right. That's exactly right. Well, yeah, you'll have to keep me updated on it when it gets
Please,
gets further along. You have to come back and then we'll
I would
talk about
love
it.
it. Would be
We'll
an
go into
honor.
depth.
Please, and I'll answer the question about how much the ball is worth.
All right, fair. A little teaser.
Yeah. My email to you be like, hey, so just to let you know, it's this price, and then it'll be a little cryptic and be like, oh man, this means this movie is getting made now. It's also
Oh, I love that. Yes, I'm in
yeah.
on that. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Hey, Nico, thank you for taking a little bit of time. This has been
Oh my
terrific.
goodness.
I the recruit is it does not seem like you're brand new to acting. It seems like you've been doing this for a while.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I'm so grateful that the team believed in me, from casting to the producers, and like even the actors, Teo and Noah, being willing to work with someone that was, at that time truly green. There was no kind of
Yeah.
argument against that. So yeah, I'm very grateful. It's really interesting seeing yourself on screen. Look at Sometimes I looked at Jimin himself, like coming out, not to give too much away. He walks down the street on his first scene, and I look at myself and the way I look now. I'm like, oh, I look so different. This is like a different version of me, right? Which is the whole point, which is what my friends tell me. And so, thank you so much. That was really nice for you to say, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I mean it. But I was sitting on the couch watching with my wife this weekend, and you came on screen, and I was like, that guy looks like he knows his fonts.
Thank you. That's exactly what I wanted. He's
He looks
screaming
subtle. I mean, you had to pay attention, but I picked up on it.
Yeah. You could just be like, he's a Helvetica command, but in this moment, his choice was Times New Roman, right?
So a couple of things, Nico, before we wrap up. Anything else that you're working on that we can keep an eye out for?
At the moment, I can't disclose anything so
Oh
far,
yeah,
but things are currently in the works. Really excited about kind of this upcoming year, obviously with additional projects and with Lily itself, kind of hopefully finally getting the ball rolling
yeah,
on
you're gonna be
that.
busy.
I think that I'm very lucky to even have the opportunity to potentially be busy. And
Yeah.
so I'm just taking it as it is. This year's been already such a whirlwind. And so we're just kind of smiling and going forward. But yeah, just hopefully more great things will happen to both of us and all of us.
I think they will. I think you've got good things coming, and you can tell you're enjoying what you're doing. And I think that's half the battle. So terrific. Last thing though, before I let you go, is
Please,
where can we
no
find you on
rush.
social media?
Yes. So I really only have an Instagram.
Yeah.
It's Nicholas the Wan,
Oh, I like
NICOLASTHE.
that.
Yeah. Um, that's it. That's me on social media. I
Would you put
still
that if you had a call sign for if you were a pilot in Star Wars? Would you put that in there?
honestly that would be. I think I would probably go with like Nico the Wan. That might be like better. And
I
Nicholas
like
is a little
that.
longer. But I actually tried to do that as my Instagram handle, but someone had taken that. So I went with my full name
I
essentially.
always liked it that um, Ewan McGregor's brother is a pilot, and he goes
I didn't
by
know that.
yeah, he's a pilot like for the British Air Force or something. But his call sign is Obi-2.
Honestly, that's great.
I
Hey,
thought that was pretty good.
that's really cool. Wha- now I'm thinking maybe I should get like flight lessons. That would be another skill I should probably like try and do
Well,
in the
you could do
future.
what most actors they get asked if they can ride a horse, and they're like, yeah, I can ride a horse, and then they have to go learn to ride a horse.
Oh, actually, I was just talking to my team about this. So I used to ride horses when I was younger, and so I actually was like, oh man, I would do anything to ride a horse. I don't know how that would fit into anything, but I was like, if you need someone to ride a horse or just hang out with the horses, I'll do it. Right?
See,
Yeah.
that's a good skill. At some point, you're going to be on a horse.
I sure hope so. I used to ride when I used to be, so I don't seem like it, people say, but I used to be a farm boy.
Oh,
I
okay.
it's like I was out picking cherries and blueberries, and my family, we were farm people. And so re- people now are like, you don't seem like you've been on a farm. And I was like, no, no, trust me. You get my hands dirty. I still love this stuff. I'm My side really nerdy stuff that I'm really interested in is like food and agricultural technology. So like alternative meats and cell grown
Yeah.
meats. And so yeah, put me on a horse. I'm ready.
All right, Nico, hold on one second. Nico Wan, just a terrific young actor. Not super young, but he got a little bit of a late start to acting. He's making up ground fast. He's somebody you definitely want to keep an eye out for. He's terrific in The Recruit. You will not believe that he's fairly new to acting. Just a really talented gentleman. I'm really interested in Lee, so hopefully that one he gets made and gets out there because I think the story just sounds terrific. So we shall see. I think we're going to see a lot more from Nico as we go forward, and we'll definitely bring him back on. And I don't know, I may catch him in LA or Vancouver. If I do, we may just have to do it in person. We'll see. Absolutely loved that conversation. Hope you did as well. If you're finding us for the first time, I'm thrilled that you're here. Would love to have your support. And there's a couple of easy ways you can do it. They're both free. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. Please subscribe. Doesn't cost you anything. Really helps us out. Our website is meistercon.com. You can find, we just passed 900 episodes. I'm so proud of it. You can find all of those audio and video versions. If we're doing anything in studio, if we're going on location, maybe to see Nico, for covering a convention, anything we have going on, be on the website, meistercon.com. So please check us out there. Thank you guys so much. Till next time. Bye, everybody.